Almost stopped playing tennis before I won the Australian Open. I was just not having fun. I felt like I worked really hard. The pressure was coming, and also those doubts. Like, I don't know if I can do it. My son is my biggest blessing that I've had in my life. Perspective of winning and losing matches changed. That I don't have time to cry and be too upset because I have a little human who depends on me, and I don't want to bring that energy to my house. If you want to be the best in tennis, that's great, but I think if you can be a well-rounded person, human, your tennis is not gonna suffer. It's only gonna get better.
Welcome to Tennis Insider Club. I am Borja Duran, and together with my partner, Caroline Garcia, here is where tennis stories and life conversations intersect. Join us as we uncover the untold personal journeys of the icons of the court. From laughter to life lessons, it's all here.
Do you support climate change? We know you don't, but your money probably does. Be part of the solution. Find out how you can use your money for good.
Victoria, thank you so much for Oh, that's a good start.
Yeah.
It's more
Victoria already.
Yes.
So formal.
You don't make this as a record. we talked about it. We talked about it because it's true. Everyone call you Vika.
Yeah, everybody calls me Vika. Victoria is more formal, people who don't really know me. A lot of people call me Vika.
Okay, let's try to do it again. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe don't edit this part. Start.
It's a very interesting beginning, though.
My beginning with Alize also was a
Yeah.
disaster.
It's a good perk of podcasting. It's not live.
Yes. All right, let's do it. Thank you so much, Vika, for joining us today in our episode. It's definitely a pleasure to have you with us. You've been at the top of the game for 20 years now. And I'm very excited to know a bit more about your journey. First of all, how did you start tennis?
Well, thank you for having me. I asked you, I saw Caroline and said, okay, when are you going to invite me for your podcast? So I kind of asked to be here.
You were I'm so happy when I heard that. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll just start by saying that because I think it's really cool what you guys are doing is showing the other side, of tennis, opening up a bit of personality. And I've noticed that with actually Dasha's vlog, how much more personal it gets when a player-to-player conversation rather than just journalist. So I'll go back to the question. I started tennis. It had to be destiny because nobody of my family plays tennis. Nobody started to play tennis. And then I was like, oh, I want to do that as well. We didn't know what tennis is. My mom just started working in the tennis center, doing a job as an administrative job. And I started going to school, and I was very close to my mom. When I was a kid, I would, she always wore this long skirt, and I would just grab on the skirt and follow her around. Knowing me now, it's very different because I used to be a very shy kid, and so I wouldn't really go anywhere without my mom. And after school, the tennis center was very close to where we used to live, and my school was right there. So after school, I would just go to see my mom at her work, and I wouldn't really let her work because I was, just distracting her the whole time. She gave me a racket, and I just went into gymnasium, start hitting balls against the wall, and just having fun, just being busy kid. There was no phones, no iPads at that time. And one of the coaches groups came and they saw him. He's like, oh, do you want to join us? And I was like, no, I'm scared, ran away. And my mom went to find my mom, and she brought me back. She's like, yeah, why don't you go start with kids? And my first year when I was playing, I haven't seen a tennis court. It was only against the wall. We were 40 kids in a small gymnasium. And then after only a year and a half in, we started to go on court. we started to go on court, and was like 25 kids. So you hit one ball and you go back of the line and
That's
stuff.
the maximum level I got.
But I think what was like looking back, which was really cool, is that I got to learn so much of like coordination, games, and it was fun. And that's what what got me attracted to like compete and play different games with other kids. Versus now, you see some kids they're like with a private coach by themselves, and it's like it's not fun for a 6-year-old, 7-year-old. So that was my kind of introduction to tennis. And my first coach, she really installed like this love for the game for me, because she made it fun, she made it interesting, she made it about tennis. And I think that kind of carried me through my career, especially in the most difficult times where you're like, well, why am I here? Why am I doing this again? And etc. So I think those early stages are super important, where you're able to kind of install in the child that interest and fun and love for the game, in actually in any sport that you do.
Moved to US to train?
Well, I was first in Spain at about 13, almost 14. I lived there in the German academy, actually, which was quite interesting. And then I moved, I was more home, and then I had an opportunity to move to US when I was 15.
By yourself or with your family?
Not with my family, with friends of my mom, how we kind of met in Belarus, with a family of professional hockey player. And they really took me in as part of their family, and I moved there. They helped me financially. They helped me with finding like a coach, and kind of really set me up. And I started learning English by watching Friends, actually the show. So I know everything about this show, like from first episode to last. And that's kind of how the transition happened. But even before that, I was, I said I was a really shy kid, but when I got into tennis, my parents didn't really have money to travel with me, so I would go sometimes with my mom, or sometimes with parents of other kids, and then my coach or coach of like other kids. I would travel. And one of my memories, I used to have very, very long hair when I was a kid, like below my butt. And the coach that I was traveling with, he came to my mom and said, I will do anything for her. I can't do her hair. I don't know how to do it. And my grandma used to do always my hair. She did my braids and all kinds of like amazing hairstyles. And at 9 years old, I couldn't deal with that, so she cut my hair like to here.
That was a big change.
And it was
a trauma for you, no?
Well, I mean, it was. I didn't think of it back then, but it was like, well, what else can you do? Otherwise, I would have knots in my hair when I come back. So that was pretty, pretty crazy. So that part was already developed to be so independent. I was by myself so many times. So when I was 14 and living in, academy, it wasn't that new. But at the same time, it was kind of hard. So I think that gave me a lot of responsibility, and I grew up very, very early. But at the same time, I feel like the childhood of, for example, something experiencing with my son is not the same. He's not at that age yet, but I just cannot picture how I can let Leo travel by himself, at 10 years old to America.
Was it more like your decision that I want to be a pro, or was like your parents that they saw something special on you and they wanted you to give you the best chance possible to make it?
Yeah, for sure they wanted to have a better life for me, but I think what I'm very grateful to my mom and dad is that they never wanted to live through me.
Yeah.
They just really wanted me to have the best life possible.
And they were seeing you happy with tennis. It was like not that they were trying to
Well,
fulfill their own dream.
No, not. But my mom was very tough on me. She's very, very strong, very tough. My dad is the nicest guy you can meet. He's always very positive. He's very laid back, and I definitely got both sides of them. So I think it was my mom's, in one way, courage to be able to let me let's see where it goes. I think it wasn't easy, but at the same time, my mom was working 2 jobs, my dad was working 3 jobs at one point. It was something that I saw, okay, they're working really hard to have a life for us. And it wasn't a question like for me, just going to play tennis is my job. It was fun for me. I have school and I was good at it. And we've heard a lot of times, oh, you're not going to play, or that's not a good option. I used to do music too, quite actually well. I played piano, and at one point I had a choice between tennis and piano, and my teacher, he couldn't accept that I didn't choose piano, because I don't know, he saw something in me that the way I hear music till this day, it's very interesting, and says, you're going to have a big future. And I was like, yeah, I like music, but I like tennis more. And so I never thought when I was young, that, oh, I want to make money and I want to be successful that way. My very early memories of like playing tennis was me imagining myself on the biggest stages, playing against Steffi Graf, and I would visualize that when I play against the wall. And obviously at that time nobody knew what visualization is, what the sports psychology is, and etc. So it was, something that kind of came from deep within, like big, dreams. Or so I just wanted to play. I think they saw that it brings me joy, and I think they saw the talent and the passion that I have, and they wanted to help my dream to come through. And so I think it was very courageous for them to be able to do that. But yeah, my mom was very hard on me. I still think that some of the early childhood memories are, you work through, to on the court, and you're like, why am I like this? Yeah, well, it kind of explains.
And how was this process of being a kid, with this dream of becoming a tennis player, to actually starting to become one, right? Like first, like a successful junior. Was it easy for you, this transition from a hobby to like something that could potentially be your like career?
Well, I didn't think that I don't feel like I thought about, oh, that's going to be my job. I'm not sure that um, I ever saw it as a job. Maybe a bit right now because I have, a child, so my priority changed. But I never really thought, oh, that's going to be my profession. I'm going to be a tennis player my whole
And you
life.
didn't feel like pressure coming?
Oh yeah, pressure, of
Okay.
course. Pressure I felt because
When was the first time that you like really feel, okay, like this is like becoming
I
something
have
serious?
expectation on me or something.
well,
When you started
yeah.
succeeding in juniors? Or...
Well, I was always good in juniors, but I always played above my age. So I wasn't like under 14, for example. I was good player, but I wasn't the best player. So I was like, doing good results, but I didn't even make a masters of under 14, for example, And then I started to transition into the 14s. And then I started to actually become, more successful and better, because I wasn't willing to play, loop the loopy balls, those lobs and stuff. So I would, come in and play dry ball, and then I would lose to girls who just play like that. So I think that transition where I start to play like under 18s, and at 13 I started playing under 18s, it was starting to like come together and pay off a little bit more. And the pressure was, the first time real pressure, I would say, when I started transition from juniors to the professional tennis. And because I was so good in juniors, it was like I play, until 3 games I beat somebody, and then some girls give up, and it was, it was not, I wouldn't say not hard, but I felt like, yeah, I'm much better than most of these girls. And then I started playing qualifyings and 25,000s, and you play against some girls that you look at and their technique, and you're like, I can never lose to this person. Like, I cannot, just that's not gonna happen. And then you're like battling in a third set, and you're like, how am I in a third set? So for me, that transition to like stomp on my ego as well was wow. And I've never lost in qualies, except one time I played the 500, it was like 500 in New Haven, and I lost to Kveta Peshke 7-6 in a third set. And there was 3 lucky losers. And she would have get in as a lucky loser. I was the only lucky loser because I had like no ranking that I didn't get in. And I said, could you have not lose to me? I would have made it to the, like, it didn't matter. You knew you were going to be in. So all those kind of thing where it's like, wow, I was that good in juniors. Am I going to be that good in professional sport?
Did you have some doubts that if you were going to be capable to make it to the
Oh yeah, I mean, will I say no? I believed in myself the whole time. Yes, but you have doubt because it's all of a sudden you come from barely losing to now losing a lot, and I lost 4 of my first finals in the WTA events, 1 of match points and stuff, and I was like, oh, when I'm gonna get over that hump and stuff. So yeah, for sure, there were many doubts on the particular day deep inside. I think that I've always believed in myself that I'm going to go as far as I can. And my dream was that I have to make it, but in my mind was like, I have to make it. I've put everything into it. It's just not going to be any other way. And I am quite religious person, so I always have that, kind of thought that everybody has their own way and how to get there. And I've said it a few times, like, it didn't happen that from juniors I became like right away really far in the professional. It may seem like it was quite quick by the time, but for me, it felt like eternity. I was like, when am I going to make it to the top 100, and stuff. So
the transition sometimes can be some tough years because like always it feels like it's long, like the season is long, and if you're struggling, it feels a very long year.
Yeah.
And from the outside, maybe you see, oh, it only took her like 2 years to get to the top. But those 2 years of working hard, of accepting losses, like that's a lot of work that people don't see. So
and it's not talked enough because, as you said, like the matches where you lose and the tournament that you play, you have like a break, because you lost early, and then you train all that time, and then you lose early, and then you train all the time. It's like,
and it's not an easy. Also, you're quite young. Of course you're mature because you started young, but sometimes you have the panic kind of, okay, I need to prove that I am worth it also. And financially, sometimes it's not always easy at this time because from junior, you don't get money in the tournament, but from sponsors. So if you don't get good sponsor, it can be tricky for travel, for paying coach. So a lot of things can come on the shoulder of a player. And also depending of where you're from, doesn't have the same helps from your federation. And sometimes 2 years is very long.
2 years can be extremely long. And as you said, the sponsors, the money, that was, I don't know how my parents really did it. It's all the props to them. And they worked so hard to give me those opportunities, and obviously the sponsors and the people who helped me to to kind of get there. But yeah, it's and the interesting thing about juniors and federations, I'm coming from Belarus. We don't have tournaments. We don't have that much help from federation, which actually I think developed pretty significantly since I grew up, and I had to go and play, qualies everywhere pretty much. The only wildcards I ever got were the ones that I earned by finishing #1 player in the world. And I think that was also taught me resilience, because when you go out as junior and you get wildcard here, wildcard there, everywhere, I think it's nice to give opportunities to kids. But I do believe it's so much better for their development is to be able to earn it, and then really see where you go from there, because I think right now it's just too much.
When you go through quali, sometimes, especially in slam, it's like a big achievement.
Oh,
it's like
yeah,
if you win the tournament.
It's huge, yeah. And then you like, yeah, I remember that my first Grand Slam also qualifying.
Where was it?
Wow, was Australia.
Ah.
Everything starts in Australia.
Yes, it's a good country for it. It's a good country.
So yeah, for sure.
And after like 2 or 3 years now of working hard, going through qualies, you start developing, you start entering top 50, top 20. How is it, this process, of like finally making it, finally feeling that you are capable of winning a slam or becoming #1 in the world? Was it easier for you at that point, or pressure keeps increasing and you want more and more?
Mm-hmm. Pressure, absolutely. I mean, I almost stopped playing tennis before I won the Australian Open.
You were 20 years old?
I was 2012. I was 20, 20 years old.
Why? Because of the pressure?
Well, because of I was 21. I was just not having fun. I felt like I worked really hard. The pressure was coming from, and also those doubts, like, okay, I would say top 20, and I was like, I don't know if I can do it. I won Miami 2 years before that when I was 19. So it's not like I didn't have any results, but it was just, I think the grind and the pressure of just going and trying to prove people was getting to me. But the most important was I wasn't having fun. I missed my family. I missed my friends, everything. And I lost to Daniela Hantukova in Doha, and I was like, you know what? I'm just not. I called my mom and I said, Mom, I'm not sure I want to do that anymore. It just doesn't feel good. And she says, what are you gonna do? I said, I don't know. I'll go to school. And she laughed in my face. Like, I mean, why are you laughing in my face? I was already going to school. Like, it's not like I've never gone to school. I was in the university. And she says, Vika, you're gonna get bored in 3 days, and that's it. But she kind of didn't say anything like, oh, what you should do or what you shouldn't do. I went back home. I partied with my friends for like 3 days, and my mom came to my apartment, and she was like, she saw me like that down, and she was crying, and I was like, why are you crying? She's like, I don't know why. How did you get to kind of this place emotionally that you were the kid who loved doing playing tennis, and you were here, in the apartment in the dark room, miserable with your life. And even though I'm still like, I think top 20 in the world or something like that.
You lost perspective entirely, right?
And I just spent some time at home. I went to see my grandma. She's my favorite person in the entire world, and she has always been so positive and optimistic. And she said, how amazing is that you get to work with something that you really love to do. Not everybody's lucky that way. And she didn't say it, we didn't talk about tennis. She just mentioned that one part. And I was like, I mean, that's true. She's very right. It's a simple thing. And it kind of changed my perspective in that way, that I was like, I'm just going to enjoy. I need to go back to the joyous kid and give it everything I...
And how do you do that? Because I think it's not very easy there. I want to enjoy, no?
Yeah.
What do you change in order to be able to go back to that kid and
Mhm.
have more fun and go back to the woods? How were you able
I
to do
think that is essential break and
Mhm.
kind of give yourself a little bit of breathe.
How long was
You
the
know,
break?
the break was maybe it's I will say 2 weeks max, but not like 2 weeks I didn't do anything. I think a week I just just really took time to breathe. And I think with our busy schedule, we always think like, no, I have to go practice. Oh, I have to go this. I cannot afford this. Oh, it's my next tournament. Oh, it's my this tournament. Oh, I need to do that. And you don't give yourself that space to just leave and just to like take a moment for yourself. And I started from like one day at a time. Okay, I'm gonna go on the court and I'm just gonna try to for 30 minutes just to enjoy whatever happens. I'm not going to think where I hit the ball. It sounds easy, but it's like it's a work that you have to put through. And it's not like in those 30 minutes that thought doesn't come back and say, no, I don't actually, I missed the ball. So it's like one point at a time, one shot at a time, one day at a time. And you start to develop more of those kind of habits that aren't maybe as bad habits as you were always judgmental. And I think it's always the cycle that you kind of go back to. For me, later in life, I understood some of my patterns that I worked through, and I can go back and understand okay, this is my, let's say, history showing up. This is what I'm kind of used to. And I now have maybe tools how I break out of this pattern. Doesn't mean that this pattern is not going to come back again and repeat itself.
Put it away after.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think when a lot of times, and I caught myself the same, when you feel like I'm out of let's say, a dark time, it's never coming back. And I think that's a mistake, because when it's coming back, you're like, oh my God, it shouldn't come back. Like I feel like I've dealt with it. It should be out of the picture, but it's not. So, I think it's the awareness, the experience that you learn. And in that particular moment, that was one of those moments. And then I went to play. I start to practice. I start to just do a little bit more things outside of tennis as well, to get myself not to feel like this is the only thing and my whole self-worth is based on that. But again, you're always going to come back to this moment in the tough times when you lose a match. You're like, oh, I'm this, I'm that, and then you have to work yourself out of that and pull yourself out of that cycle.
Do you think it's more like about the tennis itself that it was taking you down, or it was more like all the environment around it, the travel, the results, being far from home?
Yeah.
It was not the tennis itself.
It's for sure the environment. I think this is the my biggest challenge to this day is the environment. It's very difficult to live the life that we have, to experience, also there's a lot of, I mean, let's be honest, toxic people around. We do a lot, and we'll owe a lot to our fans, because they are the one who also make our job, pay our jobs and etc. But at the same time, the pressure and the abuse that happens with social media, and it never, I mean, to me personally, never happened like in person. But it's the environment for sure that is extremely tough. I think now it's tougher with the social media for young kids, that it just seems they live a different way, like how they communicate and stuff. It's I'm sure that our parents look at us and they're like, you guys just weird and stuff. But I think it's harder being in the public eye right now than it was 15, 20 years ago. I mean, I when I was like not a junior, but transitioning, I was one of the few players who had Twitter like started, and it was, I think, 2009. I don't remember when. Now it's like, it's basically your whole thing, and everybody's sharing everything about your day about that, and everybody has an opinion about this and about that. So at that time, I feel like there was a lot of media pressure for sure, that put, that feeling of doubt as well for yourself. Now it's everybody feel like a media, so everybody has an opinion, everybody can express their opinion here and there. So the environment for me for sure was a triggering factor.
Was your team important in like this phase of going back to the roots and enjoying back, or did you
No.
recruit some external help, or you did it all by yourself?
Well, my family was, my friends were, and I've had, I call him my guardian angel, my physio Jean JB. He's been with me for the last 13 years, 14 years now, on and off. And he's one of the people who taught me throughout my career to go and look outside the box and learn, and dare to try things that nobody will try, and also seek for information in different parts. So I owe a lot of him that, I wouldn't say curiosity, but the ability to go and do that. And he always guided me, and helped me guide into the right direction. And we fight sometimes like crazy, but I think that's, he's been like my second dad on the tour and protected me through different good and very bad experiences. So I owe a lot to him. But my family, and I think, I don't talk a lot about it, but that inner faith that I have, that everything is going to be okay, in those moments, is something that for sure I rely on the most.
Yeah, it's very important to have good people next to you.
Yes.
And then, like, as you say, you start enjoying again, you go back to having fun at practice. I guess your level also starts to increase again. And I guess after a few months or 1 year, no, you win your first slam and you become number one in the world. What happens next? Is it easy for you to be happy and keep enjoying, or now that you're at the top, you don't want to leave it, and it's hard again to like play without that much pressure?
Well, I like pressure. I always liked pressure, because I think that I strive under pressure. I faced pressure since I'm a kid, through different environments that I grew up in. So it never scares me to not go through it. I think it's exciting when it's like things are too easy or they become boring in one way for me. So I always loved pressure. It's drains you, but I think that it's something that I also understand. If you want to be great at something, there's no other way than through it.
And also, it's good kind of pressure, right? Like to be a tennis player, that's one kind of pressure. Then there's other people who are like trying to find a way to pay for the kids' school or mortgage. One that's like probably a more toxic, maybe kind of pressure.
Yeah, but I think that it's hard for the brain to distinguish. So when somebody says, "Oh yeah, sorry, you have problems, you don't know how to spend your millions or whatever," like that type of thing, I can understand part of that. But at the same time, if you have no tools or capability to mentally separate what kind of pressure you have, it becomes one type of pressure. I've one of very amazing people that I met in my life, he was a special force guy. And I talked to him about Air Force pilots and the amount of pressure that they go through. And he told me that I wouldn't understand what it's like for you to go out there and play in front of 20,000 people, and stuff. He says, that's a huge amount of pressure. I said, yeah, but I mean, I go out, it's not life or death for me, And when you go in that plane or you go, on the mission, that's really like a life. And he says, but the brain wouldn't know.
Yes.
So it's that was like, wow, okay, I kind of start to understand that. And then this type of thing makes me want to learn more about the psychology and reaction and the chemical reaction that you have for your brain. So that was, but when people say, okay, good pressure, bad pressure, it's depends on how you can distinguish it and how what kind of tools you have to use that. Because one of the interesting thing I've been looking into is how some of the rich, very wealthy kids have depression and have, such difficult lives, addictions, and etc. And you're like, wow, how? Like me, growing up with nothing, like how is this possible? Like you have everything in your life. You can do this, you can do that, you can do everything. And one of the comments that I've heard that kind of was interesting to me is that you have no idea how hard it is to never work for anything in your life.
And I think on top of that, it's expectations, right? Because
Yeah.
if you are raised in a super nice house with a super nice pool, when you grow up and you have to earn it, you want the same, right? No, you don't want to have less.
Mm.
And I also know, like when people say, no, but you have a lot of money. I mean, at the end, what your reality is what you can feel, right? And this person is not able to wake up every morning and say, oh, I'm very lucky because there's a kid in Africa. And so at the end, I get, yes.
That's a wishful thinking, right?
Exactly.
That's a wishful thinking.
No, like these people say, sure, but are you like, you should not complain because you cannot pay your mortgage because there's a kid without a leg in Africa, right? But it's hard to every day like remember that. So at the end, you feel your own reality, and it's hard to keep it always in perspective. That yes, I'm very lucky, and I should not feel bad because I lost the match or whatever.
But going back to kind of the pressure when I became number one, for me it was pretty exciting because I was like, I went on a streak. I won 26 matches in a row, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go out on the court and I want to play. But I think in that time, was really important is to not overburn. And in the moment, it was commitment here and commitment there, and to find that balance with being healthy, being excited and hungry to go still on the court. I think that was my bigger challenge at that time, rather than the pressure of being number one and going out there and performing. It was a learning curve of how to manage your time, how to manage at that time, I had some good people, some not very good people around me who were opportunistic, to take what they wanted from my situation. And looking back at it now, would I do something different? Probably not, because I just wouldn't learn from that. But if I have ever my son in that situation, it will be a different.
What would you tell him to do different?
Well, I would just give him my experience. I wouldn't tell him, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that, or etc. I would just show him examples and kind of share my experience. And I think that's what I do in most cases with him. When he wants to play hockey now, or he wants to do football, it's like, okay, if you want to be good, you're going to have to work really, really hard. And I know he's 7 and he's about having fun, but you tell me what you want and I'll help you with what I can to get there.
In my memory of seeing you when you were at the top, number one and everything, it's true that I saw you as a player who strive in that condition, because I remember a lot of matches win with a tough score. And after you had to go through injury, it's more injury and maybe your body that kind of stop you in this. How did you go through it and manage it and accept it also?
Well, the injury was one of my big injuries. It was in Australia, 2014. I actually played with all the way through quarterfinal with a neuroma, which was an inflamed nerve. I couldn't put my shoe in, so I had to take like a bunch of painkillers. And that's where I was saying that it comes to a point where people are pushing you to play here. So by pushing me to play through that, I developed something else and then developed something else. And then in that time, I kind of stopped listening to my own voice. And I feel like I was just more isolated in a point where I was listening too much to people who maybe didn't have my best interest
When they
at
care
heart.
only about short-term success, right?
Yes,
They don't care
and
about.
yeah, and it was hard for me because this was the first time I heard somebody says, you think you're depressed?" I said, "Nah, it doesn't happen to me. You know, I come from Belarus. My parents don't really. It's not something that was talked about at all. So I was like, nah, you can't talk about depression. I never had that." And then I started to kind of see, oh, maybe that is because I'm just not. I don't trust myself. I live a lot based on my instinct and how I feel.
Yeah.
And I actually went to. I took a little bit of a break. I went to Paris. I lived in Paris for about 2.5 months, 3 months, and I've met different people. I used to do that a lot, actually. I would go to a place where nobody knows who I am, where I don't know, and I meet random people. It sounds a bit crazy, especially like dangerous, where everybody says like, what did you go? Like, who went with you, you know? And I met a lot of people while I was in Paris. I tried to speak the language a little bit. You know, I felt like in a different world. Some of my friends came to visit me, and I started to do a little bit of therapy, and then I started to find my own, voice again. And it started again, little by little. It didn't start, okay, one day, all of a sudden, everything changed. It was like, okay, let me just, no, somebody says you should do this. I'll say, no, actually, that's not. First of all, let me check, do I want to do it? No, I don't really want to do it. What's my second step? I'll say, no, I actually don't want to do it. I want to do something else. And by kind of breaking that pattern, what I found out for myself in that time is that people who cannot like push their opinions on you, they leave right away. It's like that narcissistic behavior. And the more I did it, the more it kind of started to spread away. And
People understand they cannot control you,
yeah.
and they go for another weaker victim or whatever.
Yeah, and that kind of helped me to then restart my career. I changed the team. I started to get a little bit better with some of my injuries. The thing is, when you don't take care of something and then it transforms into others, it's like you playing a catching pattern, and that can take time. So after that, it was mentally is again to start trusting my body, that I'm able to handle this and able to handle that. And again, it's another process that you have to go through.
After being number one and win a slam, did you want it to have more? What was your next goal?
Yeah, it's still the same. I don't have a different goal. I think that's to me it's still the motivation.
Were you like very obsessed with a specific goal, or it's more like you take it day by day, you try to be as perfect as possible, but like more like, like day by day and enjoying more like the ride, or was more like a specific target in mind even now?
Well, slams were always like every slam that I would enter would be a target. It would be a target. My Olympic Games were my huge priority there, and London was probably the most amount of pressure I've ever felt in my career, with coming, from my country, and the idea that we never had a medal in tennis. And the fact that I'm number one in the world, that I have to bring the medal, in two, and I have to bring two because I play singles and mixed. So that was a big part. But till this day, I try to find a way how to do steps towards the goals.
Yeah.
But in the end of the day, every time I step on the court, to me, no matter what it is, all I care about is winning the match, and winning the tournament, winning this, winning that. I want to win in every part of that. Even if I can tell myself, you know what, Vika, this week, it's a prep week.
Yeah.
This week, we're going to do this. Everybody's on the same page. Everybody knows. And then Vika goes on the court, and then I have to take, like, now I'm better with that. Then I take a little time, and then I'm like, okay, you did what you came here to do. Let's look at the big picture. But deep inside, I'm still pissed.
So outside of the court, you're also competitive in everything you do? Play
Uh,
cards or
Playing cards, yes, and I'm very good at cards actually. uh, um, I I would say yes, and I would say things that I care about for sure. I'm not like, okay, if somebody says, "Oh, I can beat you in sprint here," and I'll be like, "Okay, let's go." I'll be like, whatever. I don't care about that. But if something that I care about, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And then when you were at the top of playing the best tennis, motherhood came.
Mhm.
How was it for you?
Well, it came quite unexpected, and I have to say, but um, I take the life the way it comes. I always think that whatever happens happens for a reason, and it is my biggest blessing that I've had in my life. The way that I'm able to come back after that and go through very, very difficult period of my time, with a personal life. Um, the idea that my example changed a lot in women's tennis and a lot more women are coming now and playing, is huge. And it's something that I'm quite proud of, and I work towards to make life of those players better and more comfortable. But now to see my son come to my matches and you know and and cheer on me and stuff.
Yeah, because he's not a baby anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
it's huge, and I never thought when I was a kid come from Belarus, I never thought I would be in this position, but I am. And at that time, when I was pregnant, it wasn't so much for me if I'm gonna come back. It was a matter of when.
yeah.
And at the same time, I didn't put time limits, like how I'm gonna come back here or there. I take, as much as I love to control things, I do also not like to plan too much, which is kind of weird. But I feel like, you want to plan, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. That's kind of thing. So then coming back, I had a very short comeback, and then I wasn't playing for a little bit. So that period of time is hard for me to judge my tennis, because of everything that was going on in my life. And I never really talk about, but at some point I might. But it was an awful, very awful time. So sometimes I wonder what could have happened if, let's say, I didn't have those difficulties and my first comeback. What would I do? Because I came back to Mallorca, I lost to Cara, and
Come on.
yeah,
Carol, be
Yeah.
nicer.
and I went to the fourth round of Wimbledon, my second tournament. So it was going pretty good direction. So I wonder, but at the same time, again, things happened the way they happen, and that's my destiny. And what I can do, what is the best thing I can take out of this experience? And I think that the whole situation taught me so much about myself, taught me so much about life, taught me a lot about legal stuff, a lot. So anytime I know when the lawyer speaks, I can recognize it within 15 seconds. So yeah, I feel like I think about it sometimes, but at the same time, I'm not gonna change that. And I feel like everything that happened for a reason, and there is a lot of evidence that it's a pretty good journey.
Well, and you mentioned like when you had Leo, it became your priority number one. How did it change your relation with tennis? Because before, I guess tennis was your priority number one, and then become two or third, I don't know. But how did you change your point of view with tennis?
Well, completely changed point of view that I struggled for a while to put myself in a position where would do the best for my tennis. Like recovery would be probably the most important one. For me, every time I finish my job, I would run back home and I would do a lot of stuff, for Leo. He will sleep with me, wake up in the middle of the night. So I didn't want to miss out on anything from that standpoint. So it definitely took me a while to understand, okay, if I miss, hour or two with Leo, and I make also myself feel maybe more fresher where I can spend a better time with him. That took a while, like that guilt that I'm on the tennis court and I'm not with my son. It changed a lot. And tennis perspective of winning and losing matches changed, that I don't have time to cry and be too upset, because I have a little human who depends on me, and I don't want to bring that energy to my house. And so that changed a lot. And after that, I started to learn more about quality time with my family, with my son, and with my my parents, and etc., which is incredible experience to understand. And some of even my friends, and they ask, how are you able to do all those things with Leo? Because I make it a point, like when I'm home, I have this time, or between my practice, I set up my practice, that I do everything I need to do, but then that's my time and stuff. So
I mean, at the end, even if you take tennis as a huge priority, it's not going to take more than 10 hours per day, which at the end is like the same, as any other ordinary job. So I think if you schedule well, you have probably time for both. But maybe the biggest issue is traveling, I guess, with a kid, or not?
Well, when he was younger, it was pretty good. And I'm very fortunate. My mom would travel with me. I had a nanny as well. So financially, I'm fortunate to be able to afford that. Not everybody is. And again, it was, for me, it was important to make my schedule where we go, make sure that Leo has the best things to do. When he's older, it's a different type of travel. Now he needs activities everywhere. So like last year, we traveled with his hockey bag, during the summer. To Washington, he was in Washington Capitals camp. We went to Montreal, he's in Montreal camp. Then we go to Cincinnati, something else. In Paris, he plays in Paris Saint-Germain camp. So I look for things that we can do together that are fun. He's into art now. We're going to go to museums, so it's ever changing. And that's what I'm talking about, the quality part. I may have to spend, half of the day on site, or when it's raining, it might be all day. But I'm going to make sure that when we go here or there, we spend quality time together, and he explores things. Do I wish I could do it more? Yes. But sometimes it's not possible.
You'll have time in the future, no?
Well, they grow really quickly. It's sometimes you're like, wow, he's 7 years old. I can't believe that.
Would you like him to be a tennis player or not?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't know. I'm not like, okay, I don't want him to become a tennis player. I want him to pick what he wants to do. And I think my job as a parent is to help him with whatever he chooses. I want to expose him to everything. So he tries everything, and he's tried already so many things. He plays many different sports. He does art. He played piano. He plays chess. So I want him to explore the world, and then choose. Right now, he wants to play hockey or football. So I'm going to support that. And if he ever wants to play tennis later, he plays in school, for example, now. Well, he's 7 still. He will have time. I don't think like some players, they're gonna have so much pressure because he's a son of Victoria Azarenka. Well, I think he'll have pressure anywhere he goes. Well,
maybe it's a better pressure compared to yours, no? Like your parents have been invested in everything they had. No, that's probably a worse type of pressure in a way.
Well, he will have pressure. I'll fabricate it for him. I do. He's, he obviously grows up very differently from me, and I will create situations for him to understand, because was interesting thing we do every year for Christmas. I make him pack his toys and give them away, and he hates that. He hated why, I will play with that. And once we go through his toys that he hasn't touched, oh no, I'm going to play with it. I said, no, you're not. Like, if you haven't played with it for a year, you're not going to play with it. So just pack them, and we're going to give them away to kids who have no toys. So the first time we did it, he was 4. So it was not easy for him to understand. He's like, why is my mom taking my toys? It started to become easier, and I think it's important. I explained to him. He says, "Oh, mommy, what was your gift? Your gift when you were 6." I said, "Well, nothing compared to yours." So I want to make sure when he grows up, he understands pressure. Like, I will not lose to him in a cards game on purpose. No way. Like, I was talking actually yesterday with Yelena Vistin. She goes, but I lose to my daughter. She's like, she cannot lose, and it pisses me off, but I will pretend like I said, I will not do that. It's absolutely no way. I will help him how to maybe play better or here or there. But like sprinting or something, no, I will not lose. No chance.
Yeah, I think it's good to understand that if you want something, you have to work hard for it, no? And don't feel that entitlement, because otherwise you feel a lack of purpose maybe later in life.
Yeah. It was actually interesting because to see the mindset is an interesting story. So he had tryouts to go to a new hockey team that he didn't make. And he wanted this Pokemon game. And I said, okay, what's this game? He says, oh, it's on Nintendo. I said, okay, we looked it up, and it's like $120. I said, what the hell is this game? Are you joking? $120? I said, do you even know how to play it? He goes, yeah, mommy, everybody in my class have this game, and I really want this game. I said, well, you know what? You have to put down half money, and if you make it to your team, I'll give you the other half. And he goes, well, but why my money? I said, because you have money, from grandparents, for tooth fairy, whatever, bring your half. He brought me $60. And then his dad was like, oh, I'm not sure, maybe we shouldn't put it on the result. I said, well, it's not like, if he doesn't make it to the team, he doesn't eat, it's not a punishment, So yeah, it's something that he wants as a goal. It's a privilege. It's a treat. So you got to earn that. Yeah. So, and what was so interesting about the story is that his mindset was like, mommy, what if I don't make it? I really want the game. I said, Leo, don't worry. You have 3 weeks to practice. Put everything you can every single day. Do your best you can. And if you do that, I'm sure you will make it. And he goes, yeah, but I said, okay, no but and not what if. Just do it, and then we'll see what happens. And 3 days before the tryouts, he starts to feel like that, oh, my tryouts in 3 days, that stuff. The day of the tryouts, he was like, Dad, no music today. I need to focus. It's my day to tryouts and etc. So it develops, this like responsibility, which was very interesting to see. And I was like, that's great. And he made it. And the first thing he says, mommy, I got the game. I said, okay, that's good, but you earn it. And I'm happy to do that. But he still, contributed his part, and that's great. But it was for me so fascinating, because it always takes me by surprise, these moments where you live and the way they respond, so it was very cool.
And like you mentioned, there is more and more mother on tour and coming back after having a kid.
You're not pregnant.
No. No.
She's asking out of curiosity.
Because why I'm saying is, when I gave birth to Leo, Serena came to my house to see me, and she met Leo and etc. And it was like February of 2017. And then she's asking me all these questions, she's asking me like, how was it? And etc. And I was like, oh, okay, well, she's asking me all this question. And then a month later, she's like, I'm pregnant. I was like, okay, great. Great. I should have picked up on it.
No.
Yeah.
Is there like, are you girls like talking about it, about the environment, how it is? Do you feel something is different in the mindset of all these great champion after coming back, or maybe it depends from one to another, I guess, also.
I'm not sure I had too many conversations with some. I think it's more about present, and like how the kids are, what are they doing. I was, like in French Open, we go to the creche, and then Serena's there with her daughter, and she's sitting there doing her emails, and I'm bringing Leo, and I have something else to do, so I don't feel like there's ever a time where you sit down and talk about it. Maybe after career. I talked to, for example, Yelena Vesnina a little bit. We talked just about like life. It didn't come to the point where, how was it for you? I think it's more, I've had more questions and like, let's say, advice from women who thought about it. Who
What
thought
would be your
about,
advice
yeah,
for someone
yes.
thinking about it?
So more from that standpoint, not when it happens. So I think that is more, and because I feel like I've been pretty open to share a lot of my experience, I think that also resonated with quite a few players.
What would be your, like, if someone asks you about that, I'm thinking about being a mother and then coming back, would you recommend it or not?
Oh,
Would you
yeah,
say like, rather
absolutely.
wait and finish your career first?
Well, I think it depends what you want to do. I think it depends which stage of life you are at. For me, it was also like I didn't have to come back. I had already a very successful career to stop. For somebody who maybe hasn't, it might be more scary. Like, oh, what if I don't make it? I think that right now, there are easier ways, with the ranking, freeze the longer period of time. That is one way to help. But I think that the bigger step is to be able to secure our players financially, where they feel just more secure of doing that. But if somebody comes, should I do it? Like, I want to say yes or no. I think you need to understand what you want from that perspective, where you are in life. I think it's very similar to when somebody says, what is your advice to become a great tennis player? Well, there isn't one, and there isn't one for every single person. I think if you actually want to help somebody, you need to understand their reasoning, what they want, what their mindset, and then you can help them through your experience and what you do, and whatever they kind of pick out from that. It's I think it's the best way of giving advice, in my opinion.
And as Carol was mentioning before, you've been already like almost 20 years on tour. What keeps you driving to keep doing all this traveling, all this losing almost every week? Yeah.
Well, traveling is very hard for me. I'll have to say that that's my biggest challenge, and how I try to trick my mind to be excited to travel somewhere is that I'll find something to do there. Like, oh, I'm excited to eat food in Rome,
Yeah.
or somewhere else. Yeah. That kind of helps me better with perspective. What still drives me to go out and, sweat and, go to that point where you're like, oh my God, I can't breathe and I'm tired, and you wake up and, oh my God, I can't move my body, is the ability that I still learn I try to, as I told you in the beginning, I try to seek information from everywhere I can go. I'll learn about science and I'll try to do how can I implement here in tennis? How can I change my game? How can I improve my game? How can I improve myself as a person that will help my game? And the driving factor for me is that I feel that I'm still improving and I'm still learning. And once I don't feel that, I think that's going to be the time for me where I want to finish. And people say, well, yeah, but you're not number one in the world anymore. Yeah, well, that's, there's only one. But to do what I've done for 20 years, it's really pretty incredible. And I want to do what I want to do with my life. And I write my own story. Does it get to me sometimes? Yeah, like, okay, you're not playing the same. Well, that's not, how do you judge that? How do you judge that? You can judge that by results. The competition is different. You play different tournaments. You play different. Everything is different. But I will for sure say that I'm a better player than I was in 2010 or 2012. I'm a much more mature player. I feel that I'm probably recover less quick than I was then.
That's the perk of aging, no?
but feeling wise, I feel better than I was. I would never go back to 2010 when I was 20. There's absolutely no chance.
And do you have any clear idea of what's next after tennis?
Well, I have a lot of things to do already, so I don't know in terms of like career, well, am I gonna go into this direction or into this direction? I don't know because I feel like I've done a lot of things that I'm capable to go in different fields. And then we'll see where the journey takes me. I'm not a planner, like I'm gonna do that. I think throughout my life I try to expose myself to so many different things. And then whenever opportunity comes, I'm not actively looking now. I think I'm prepared for my retirement if it comes tomorrow. Like I'm not worried about that.
Doesn't scare you?
No,
No,
and not at all. Because when I have time off, and I've had time off for like extended periods of time, it wasn't like, oh, I'm so bored. I just don't know what to do. Like I'm never like that. So, I've recently got into horses. I have a horse now, so I ride. It's my favorite thing to do outside of spending time with Leo. Sometimes I prefer riding because sometimes he can be tough. I'm like, I need a break. I'm gonna go ride. But it's probably like spiritually one of the deepest connections I've ever experienced in my life. And it's hard to explain to anybody with words. I've tried it a few times. My boyfriend also looks at me like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, you love your horse. I get it. Like, I'm happy for you, It's a learning experience. I got on a horse for the first time in Paris, actually, last year. I drove to, it calls, it's like 40 minutes from Paris. I forgot the name. Le Maison something. It's like a horse town. I found like a lesson online. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm going. Like I've been trying to find here, there, and there. I found one. Let's go. I got on a horse and I was like, oh my God, I feel so vulnerable right now. It's like I have no control at all. And I have to communicate with this creature that doesn't speak the language that I speak. And he will do what I ask him to do. So how do I ask that? So that whole concept of like spiritual connection and the connection with feelings, that not with words. You can say, yeah, let's go here, but they will do what your body says to do. And it's incredible. I have like a lot of really cool moments with my horse, but one of the most recent one before I came to Europe is the first time he had to have eye surgery, which was whole other experience for me. I cried. It was crazy. But I started riding him again before I came to Europe, and my trainer told me like, "Hey, why don't you just go bareback on him for one time?" And I was like, "Really? Okay." She's like, "Okay, let me just." And so he had no bridle, nothing. I got on him, and I was like so scared because there's nothing. I have to hold on to his mane. He's a racehorse. He has not the long mane. And he felt that I was scared. He knew that I was scared. So he would not move until I would like settle. And then I didn't say anything. And when I felt like, okay, like I am okay, he started walking. So that whole the connection is for me now it's another level of experience. And when you ask me what am I gonna do, it's like whatever comes, I'll find, because I feel like when I'm very sensitive person and I feel a lot of things, and I'm sure I will be one way or other way involved with tennis, probably. I don't know yet, but we'll see where life takes me.
In the little time off you have been a lot involved on WTA board. How important for you is it to help the other player and help the tour keep growing? And how important is it for you?
I would say it's my passion. I will say it's my passion also because I feel that there were a lot of players and a lot of legends before us who made the tour possible for us, who kept improving our tour, for us to monetize on it, to take advantage. And it's, I wouldn't say a duty, but it's something that I want to continue to give back to our sport, who gave me so much in my life. And without tennis, I don't know where I would be. And I want to make sure that tennis is in much better environment when I leave than when I came in. I believe that we have an incredible product. I believe that we have an incredible sport. I really do love my competitors and the girls, the athletes. I think they're incredibly strong. And I want to make sure that the life is better. I don't know if I ever have a daughter, if it wants to play tennis or somebody else's kid, that I think it's important that we make it better for us. And now we have you, Caroline. You,
Yeah.
you know exactly how I am in that environment.
Yeah, she's always impressed by how committed you are. Like she's always talking good things about it.
Yeah, I fight really hard for when you talk about my competitiveness. I wouldn't say it's a sport for me, but I believe what is right. I believe in helping other people. I think that we strive when we work together. And when we support each other. There's a lot of people who also in the world, there's a lot of division and stuff. And I think in times where we want to develop something and get better, it needs to come with unity and empathy and support for one another. And I believe that women's tennis game is one of the best sports in the world. And I hope that it continues to grow, and maybe in some capacity later on, I can be involved with a bigger picture.
What advice would you give to these younger girls or boys that are now maybe 14, 15, trying to make it to pro? What advice would you give to them?
Well, advice is the general advice.
Or to your younger self, imagine you're 15 again. What would you tell yourself?
I always tell myself, and I would say anybody else, be curious. Be curious, go out, learn, read. If somebody tells you something, not verify to not trust, but expand so you can create your own opinion. There's many things in life to learn, not only about if you want to be the best in tennis, that's great. But I think if you can be a well-rounded person, human, your tennis is not gonna suffer. It's only gonna get better.
Exactly.
Yeah, and even for your life or after tennis, be curious. It's very important.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting with Caro, because me watching Caro throughout the years, you were always very shy, very close person. And I think it's pretty incredible to see you, I would say in the last year and a half, how much you've really show more of yourself, you expand. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you have any more questions.
No, I mean, I learned already so much, and it's an inspiration, and you've been, and you are one of the many champions we have, and it's an inspiration to have you here and listen to all your advice, all your experience, and yeah, I mean, I'm super happy. We have a question. Which guest would you like to listen in the podcast?
One man, one woman, one man.
One man and one woman. Wow.
And then you have to help us bring them.
Okay.
No pressure.
I'm kind of always stuck. You had Andre already,
Yes.
which I think would always is great. I love him. He's one of my favorite
Great
people.
people.
Yeah, he's very deep person. Sometimes he says that people don't understand him. I said, I know.
Actually, when we finished, we were so curious that we asked to have a second episode, because we feel that he's so deep that we want to go deeper, because it's so interesting.
Wow. One man. Let me think about it. That's a question we have to ask at the beginning. You're gonna have to cut the part of me thinking.
It's extra work for me, no worries.
Yeah. Oh my God. But it has to be one playing right now, or not playing?
Related, yeah.
Tennis
Doesn't
related.
even have to be a player.
Yeah, it can be a coach or whoever.
Yeah, my coach. No, I mean, no disrespect to him. I wouldn't pick him.
I won't cut this. Huh?
I was just having dinner with Sorana Kirste. I'll pick her. We had pretty cool conversation. We were talking about a lot of things. So I'll pick her. She comes to my mind right now. From the guys, I think Medvedev. I think he would be an interesting guy because he is very unorthodox and he loves to talk. It seems Kachanov loves to talk, if you want, for hours. Me and him, we had a fight once, but he just talks too much, and I told him to shut up. I like to talk too.
All right.
Yeah, so it'll be,
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's...
Now you have to help us make it possible.
Well, Sorana could be pretty easy.
Sorana.
I'm just kidding, no worries.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me, guys.
It was a big pleasure, I think. We will learn. I mean, I learned a lot of from this, and I hope people will be as inspired as I was.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.